There you go. And Ryan, that shows just on time. Can you hear me, man?
Yes, I can. You look very festive.
I'm the one who cannot hear you. Hold on. Let me see.
I like the on-air
Again?
light you have in the background.
I cannot hear you, man, at all. Did you connect your cam and mic? Um,
Is this better?
I cannot hear you yet.
Hmm.
Look at the settings and make sure.
Hello. Uh,
Let me see for the audio. Oh, I see. That's on me. So the mic should be the other way around, and my speaker should be okay. Say something now,
hello.
loud and clear.
Hmm.
That's good, man. Good to see
I
you. How
like
you
the
been, man?
on-air thing you have in the background.
What's that?
I like the on-air light you have in the background.
Oh man, this has been my childhood dream, man. I always wanted to be a radio DJ or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So when I
Now
saw
you're a
that,
nerdy radio DJ.
huh?
Now you're a nerdy radio DJ.
Yeah, man. I mean, we don't fall too far from our dreams, I guess.
I guess not.
So yeah, I mean, I what was that? I was at I don't know, a Marshalls or something like that, and I saw the sign and I just flipped. And my wife and my kids were looking at me like, "What's wrong with him?" I'm like, "You guys don't understand, man." Oh man, I always wanted to have one of these things.
Hmm.
Let me switch to my headphones and let's get started. Okay, connect to my where's my Bluetooth? There's so many things nowadays. Okay, Bluetooth is connected. All right, you still can hear me?
Hmm.
Cool, cool, great. Okay, so we are streaming at the same time on LinkedIn, on YouTube. So I might be looking around sometimes if there's a comment or something like that, then we can just I can try to respond to it. But I believe this is going to be a series of few videos, few session like this that we're going to do. And I could not change the username on Twitch yet because we are on Twitch, on Twitter, and on Twitch it should be like Coders Craft Dev. Because what Ryan and myself are going to be doing every Wednesday, I don't know if we want to commit yet to like every week, but we will try. But every other week at least, we will come here, start on a project, on a concept, something like that, and then maybe take 2, 3, 4 sessions to finish one project and then move on to the next one. And it is just a learning process for both of us. Ryan claims to be a junior developer. I don't know, man. I've been doing this for 20 years. I still feel junior myself. So, but what I like about Ryan is like the energy and then just like the questions. So he's gonna keep me accountable, and hopefully we're gonna learn. So that's there's no way that this whole thing can be scripted. He's gonna come with his own perspective, his own questions, and hopefully at the end of the day we both learn something new. Yeah, feel free to comment if you're on LinkedIn, on Facebook. I mean, I'm not streaming on Facebook today, so LinkedIn, Twitter, what's the other one? LinkedIn, Twitter, and Twitch. There you go. So today we're going to be talking about Storybook. Okay, my first question to you, Ryan: have you heard of Storybooks before, or have you had the chance to play with it before?
I've yes to both.
Cool, cool. And what's your general impression on it? Are you using it as a solo dev or like within a team?
Both, actually.
Cool, nice. So what are the things that are you seeing in there, or what are the things that might be an overkill? What is your general impression about it?
When I first came to look at Storybook, I was initially very confused because it
Mm-hmm.
presents to you a very different way to think about development, front end
Mm-hmm.
development.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I would structure my development whenever making a view or some component where I would spin up the application, some website I was making for a company, and then I'd make it in the application. Like if I needed a button or a
Mm-hmm.
drop down in a certain place, I'd develop the component in the application.
Mm-hmm.
This leads to, okay, what if you have different states? Or what if you need to test some very rare states, like a very particular user or a very particular network state, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can't mock those up easily. And then when I went to Storybook, they said, okay, stop developing your application, your components and other states, all of that in the application itself. Instead,
Mm-hmm.
think about it as you're developing in isolation. You mock up the data, and then they just render the component onto the screen for you. Then you kind of compose components onto components, and then by the end of it, all you need to do is just feed all your components data, and then it renders onto the screen. So it gives you like a nice book of sorts to look at all the different states that you made. You can hook it up with a lot of different tools. So I actually use it on one of my personal projects, my personal website, and I've actually been
Mm-hmm.
finding it pretty helpful because now I don't have to click through all the different states in my website or mock it up. I can actually just see everything listed on left. I can explore my website components just like
Mm-hmm.
a file explorer. So it's been really cool that way.
Nice. I mean, for me, I have always been resistant to change. I've been like using, for example, CSS since like the CSS Zen Garden. So when people talked about Tailwind CSS, I was just like, eh.
Hmm.
Even like I'm not a big fan of Bootstrap. I like the fact that I can just start my CSS from scratch, have something. But as a solo developer, it might work and it might be annoying. But when I work in teams, and most of the time I do consulting with like very big teams, it can be a pain. And component based or component driven architecture, like you, I was always starting the component inside the actual app. So it will be a React app. I will start the React component inside of the user story, and same thing with Angular. But when I started embracing Storybook, I had this little like aha moment where I could really like throw everything that I needed to at that component in isolation and not have to worry about the bigger application and then do all the little permutation, the little states. Like if you take a button for me, I believe like a button is enough to teach like the entire like front end, like, state management and
Hmm.
and different. I mean, just that little silly button, man, and all the little things. And we're gonna do one today and kind of so people can put it in perspective. But I was just like, it's just kind of went back full circle. This whole concern about the separation of concern came at this level too, where I was like, oh man, I can really develop my component in isolation. I can share this with my QA team, with my designer team, and sometimes when we have like any type of complex type of bugs or anything like that, we don't have to fire up the application, create a scenario. We just go directly into the scenario in Storybook. We see it in there, and then we put like, using the actions or the knobs or stuff like that, then boom, you have like a situation, and you can validate your Storybook if it is done right. And the part that I love the most, because in most of the teams that I work with, I kind of sit as a UI architect. I don't even know what that title really means, but I'm kind of the one who should solve the problem for the developers. I'm there to make sure that the developer experience is great. So by giving them those tools where they don't have to worry about, okay, how I build this component, because the component is already built with for them, you know the inner workings of the component is already built for them. And Tailwind CSS, a lot of people say it's verbose, it just dirties your HTML. Even that layer, I can abstract it, and then when they want a button, they just put that button. When they want like a menu, they have that menu, and all they have to worry about now is the logic and how the things connect together. So this, to me, this is fantastic. And then on top of that, we're going to use Narwhal NX workspace, which, like, when we're talking about separation of concern, it is like, the holy grail when it comes to that kind of a lot of people are lost in it, because like when you say monorepo architecture, people are going to counter it with like, oh, micro front end versus monorepo, multi-repo. No, 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 no. Narwhal, like, I think what they have done with like NX workspace goes beyond that, and the moment you start getting hooked into it, you cannot explain it. You just have to start playing with it, and you'll see that even like a calculator, you will want to like architect it with like the normal workspace for all the things that it gives you like out of the box. But I am a big advocate of showing, rather than just telling. So let me share my screen and tell you what we're gonna go through and put things into perspective. So, all right, it's getting a little cozy in Georgia these days, so bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, I could see it.
Okay, so what I have done is I have created a storybook here, and you see that I put the branding around it already, and then the coloring and everything like that. But this is a storybook HTML file, and I'm following the atomic design system. If you have not heard about it, it was coined, I believe, by Brad Frost back in 2011 or something like that, 2012. And basically, what I like about it, and it goes so well with like the whole thing about composing a UI, So basically, the atomic design system like has this system of atoms, molecules, organism, templates, and pages, basically. So a good example for a web developer or front-end developer is you can look at like a label as an atom, an input as an atom, and a search button as an atom. But if you think about a molecule, it's this system where you have the label at the top, the input on the left, and the search on the right. So you can isolate those pieces and then compose them however like you see fit in your molecule system, and then so forth and so on when you start like building organisms, templates, and the final like expression of that is a page. So I've been following this personally. It's a little slow to get started with it because you wanna know, um, you don't wanna decide too early how to cut your designs and everything. If you do have the help of a designer, that's even better. I use a whole workflow. I start at Figma, for example, and here, this that I'm building right now, this light dashboard, you have the dark UI, and within like the sessions that we have set up for ourselves, we will be like building some part of this, maybe 2 or 3 pages, and with the proper stories in an Angular NX workspace. So a quick tour of the application. It is email admin dashboard, so you have your sidebar, your navigation, and then so just your typical like kind of email inbox application, but it has a dashboard like feel to it. So you have that, and let me go back to the design, to the editor. And technically, I don't think like Figma is where developers should like get involved in that design process. To me, the handoff should be done in another user because just for the simple reason that Figma can still get dirty. Like for example, I'm the one who started creating like this component system, but usually a designer would like do that for you. I isolated the icons, and I even started like thinking about, okay, what are the atomic parts and stuff. So if I was to work with a designer, this is where maybe we would work and talk about it. But in Figma, I added like the Zeppelin plugin. So really, really the developer workflow starts in Zeppelin for me, and which I'm going to open here. So in Zeppelin, I have the same design here. You see, that's the dashboard. And let's say that's the approved design from my designer team. These are the approved one, So these are the page that we need to put together. And I have a style guide here that gives me the different like colors, the brand color of like this application. And I have a Tailwind CSS plugin that I added to Zeppelin that gives me the colors here and stuff like that, And the components, if you remember in Figma, I already cut some components. Those components will show up here, you know. So I can build with this. And now my initial reaction would be, okay, take this. Okay, what is this? It has an image card or whatever. That's what it's called. Take this, create an image card component in Angular and start like developing, you know. So and interrupt me anytime, Ryan, because sometimes I'm not seeing you since I'm looking at a few screens at the same time. So feel free to jump in anytime if something doesn't make sense or if I'm
No,
going too
this is good.
fast. All right. So now what I have done so far is I created this storybook. Most of the storybooks that you're going to see, people are not even given take the time to kind of brand it. So I branded this one and I started like going with the system of like having like, you know, the button as an atom. And then here, the different state that we were talking about, you know, and I really like this control system because from here I can see the different state. Okay, that's the secondary. What if I do a tertiary? So in this one, I did not do any style for this yet, you know, and so forth and so on. And what I like about storybooks, there's the doc side of it, where when I do the show code, it will just show me the button that the code that I use to create this. But this can be a little more descriptive, you know. And in the Angular side of it, I will make it a little more descriptive. So for the molecules, I have my list item, for example, as a molecule, because you see how it's a combination of an image, a link, a header, and then some text, and then a state here of like a favorite or not. So if I add is favorite to true, you see the state how it changed to true. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have an email header, I have a combination of a header here and a tab menu. So this is the molecule system. And an organism here, I have this page, which is basically the header for the email inbox panel, and then the different messages. So now, when we look at the code behind this, like I said, I did this with Storybook HTML, and I did it with vanilla JavaScript first, because sometimes I just need to do that to understand, because sometimes you can get lost in the framework because you are battling like the understanding of the framework and at the same time the implementation of that new thing that you're trying to use. So most of the time, I will create this thing in just vanilla CSS and JavaScript that I understand better. And then I do the transition, the mental model transitioning into Angular or something else. So here, you will see that we just have a regular button TS, and it's almost like a React component. Because here I have an interface, the button props, and the button will get a level. And these are the 3 levels that are attached, like a primary, secondary. I could have called it color. I just like level because to me, the button way on the page is a level. We want this to be a primary button. We want it to be like, you know, very obvious. So I call it level. But, you know, if I needed to change it, I can change it from here. A size, you know, a type, if it's going to be disabled or not, if it's going to have a small icon, a large icon, icon only. So this is just me drafting what a button model could look like, and then how we capture the event, okay? So that's just like your typical props interface. And here, I created like how you will, let's just call it the button factory, because that's how you will create a button, you know? So, and you'll have default stuff in there if you don't pass a label and stuff like that. And then here I'm doing a little kind of interesting stuff. So I'm adding the classes, you know, attaching the button level, the button size, and then stuff like that. And then I'm doing a few logical stuff. If it is disabled, add the class. If it is with small icon, add the class, and so forth and so on. And here in button CSS, which gets us to the Tailwind part that we're going to be covering, I go with like your typical classes that you will find like in Bootstrap, for example. Like, you know, the button itself, what a button primary is, what a button transparent, and all these like variables are like in a root CSS file, and that root CSS, all these variables were taken directly from my Zeppelin style guide. When I go to the color palette, that's the ones that are here, right here, basically. Okay, so now I have my button, and you see all of these things. And people who hate CSS, like, are like, why would I even have to worry about this? But I mean, to be honest, I have Copilot helping me these days, so I write this thing pretty fast. Now, finally, a button story, where you importing Storybooks HTML, and then I have a create button and the button props that I get from my button TS file. And here I basically have the archetypes. That's where we have the different controls. So for example, yeah, the label, okay, the level, we have it as like a select. So this is very important. I really like the fact that when I come to the level here, instead of having text, I can change it with a select button, for example. So this is very cool, and we'll see like how it applies in inside of Angular. Okay, and so
Looks
forth
good.
and so on. Yeah, and then you have a template basically that you associate with that, and then basically you are saying use the create button function that we have here, and then I'm gonna pass you some arguments and create a button for me. And now this is how you're binding like the different one, the primary, the primary transparent, the secondary and secondary transparent. And those are the names that you find again in the storybook here: primary, primary transparent, secondary, secondary transparent. And then last thing before we get into the Angular side of things and NX, in here in the title, this is where I say that I want it to be an Adams and it's going to be a button. Okay. Command Z, get out of this. And that's why it's now like organizing it this way for me. All right. Okay. So we're going to start recreating the same thing that's going to, in an NX workspace. That's going to allow us to introduce NX for some of the people who don't know about it. We're going to use Angular as our front end framework for this, and we're going to go a little step by step with like the time that we have today. So we have maybe another 30-40 minutes. We'll see how far we get, but at least we can get it all set up and ready for us to go and come back like next Wednesday, and keep on building like this user interface.
Sounds
All
exciting.
right. Okay. Any questions for now?
Yeah, you did a good job on the Figma stuff, by the way. I really like the designs you put in.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a repository that I go to, and there's an annual thing that you pay, and you have access to all those design and stuff. So this is pretty good when you are able to recreate something as real as possible. To do this type of stuff. I hate the Hello World examples. I want real stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go, and what we're gonna do now. So for now, let's just say, since I'm streaming, I'm going to be very cautious about memory here. Zeppelin, I'm not going to need you now. Bye bye.
What does
Let's
Zeppelin
go.
do, by the way? I haven't heard of that application before.
Well, Zeppelin basically is the bridge. I call it the bridge between like the design and the development department. To me, that's where you do like the design handoff, basically. And you validate your design. So if you go in here, Zeppelin.io, and they have a desktop version. So deliver on the promise of design. You have like the spacing, you have CSS, you can have SCSS like outputted, but you basically are able to recreate almost at the pixel perfect level a design, because you have this visual way of like, you see how as you are clicking on something, it tells you how tall is it, how big it is, what kind of font, and it even proposes to you a set of like CSS and HTML files, HTML like markup for you to copy and just like put in your and adapt into your design. So if you add it properly in like in your workflow, it can be like the contract between the development team the contract layer between the development team and the design team, where whenever the designers are ready with a page, a component, they push to Zeppelin, and then you can even they even have you can even how you call it, version control like your design, and say design as of September 20 whatever, and then if you update that design, you can version control it and push it up, and then the designer, the developer receives like that update, for
That's
example.
pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. So I think like just thinking about all these little pieces and making a workflow around. And in my Angular example, I have a direct connection between Zeppelin and StoryBook. So the code that I create and everything like that, it is reflected there. But that we will talk about at the end of the session. So there's so much to share. Let's try to
Yeah,
kind of
let's get
like
into it.
just, yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so that was Zeppelin. Now the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a new NX workspace. So NX, for those who have not heard of Narwhal, they have revamped their website, so I'm sure they're happy that we are showing like the new version right now. But the NX site, so Narwhal, like, is building this. It's just, an Angular workspace on steroid, but they're doing the same thing for React, for Vue and for other systems in there. Read about it, follow these guys and girls. They are just awesome. I mean, I think that I'm looking for an excuse every single time to start a project with NX. you know so let's create and show as we are telling. So let me go to my terminal here, and let me see what node version I have, because there is something. Okay, I'm at 16.13.0.
That's LTS, I think.
That's LTS, but I don't think the latest Angular supports this one yet. Okay, so I'm in ZSH. I'll change this when we get to the bash terminal in like VS Code. Okay, but for now, I can at least use npx create, and I think it's NX workspace at latest. Okay. I really love npx, man. You don't even have to. If it's there, it runs. If it's not there, it tells you like I need to install this. That's very cool. So I'm just gonna go like this. I could have like added the flags, but I think it makes sense to just do it this way. So for people who are gonna see it the first time, so I would say yes, and then I'm just gonna call it email admin. I don't want to call it fitmail because I have another project called that already. So I'm gonna call it email admin. Okay. Um, and now in NX, it doesn't commit you to a particular like language or framework. You can choose to have empty, and then we can talk about why would you choose empty in some other. So for example, if you wanted to have a React app and an Angular app living together, which is very possible in this workspace. Anything. And then, anyways, read about it. But I just wanted to show you the extensibility of NX. There's all of these things that are like, the schematics that is provided by the Narwhal team. So I'm gonna go with Angular. All right. And the application name, so it's going to create a default application. You can name it whatever you want, but for me, the default application, I will always give it the same name as like the workspace. And that's a tip that I got from Zach, who works with the NX, the Narwhal team. So the default application, same name as the workspace. And that implies that we can have one or multiple hundreds of applications inside the same workspace. And we're going to use Tailwind. We don't really need even like this, but let's just say we're going to go with CSS. NX Cloud is something that we're not going to use today, but I highly recommend it. and then it's creating our workspace. So hopefully the 1 gigabyte upload or whatever, like the 1,000 gigabyte,
Hmm.
whatever from AT&T is going to show up here. But I wanted to do it from scratch so people can just see that this is for real. I mean, we're not, this is what like your normal developer experience is going to look like. But it's creating it. Usually for me, it runs about 2-3 minutes, to create a brand new workspace.
It's nice that the
So,
NX solves a lot of these problems for you with the
oh my
templates
lord,
and stuff.
man. Oh my lord. And then on top of it, out of the box. So while it's doing that, let's talk about what NX gives you out of the box. It gives you like, a proper setup for like your end-to-end testing with like Cypress. It gives you out of the box a proper setup with like Jest for your unit testing. It gives you what we call like an environment like dependency graph, so you see how the different applications and libraries that you have are interconnected, you know
Hmm.
and so I mean there's so many things that if you were to set it up by yourself, it will take you like cycles to get it right, and then you get it out of the box. So now we have our NX workspace created, and what I'm gonna do, let me cd into it, and let me open it into our Visual Studio here by using the code shortcut. And I think it already runs like npm install. So
You should be good. I think I saw it
yeah,
run it.
yeah. All right. So one thing though, I know that Angular. Yeah, I trust the. Okay, this is fine. Thank you, GitHub. Now you are in a typical NX workspace, and we have our node modules and everything. But the one thing that I'm gonna do is Angular latest version, which is 13, does not support 16 beyond 16.10 out of the box. How do I
Ah,
know that? So how do I know that? If you go to Lars Nielsen GitHub, Angular versions, um, Angular node versions. I mean, it's not even in the official Angular documentation, but yeah, I mean, he did a very cool book these days about Ivy, like a very very talented like folk to follow, and I'll find it, but I'll find it, and for the sake of time, I'll post the link. He put a table of like each version of Angular, what version of Node it's supporting. Okay, so I know for a fact that the latest is not supported yet, at least as of last week. So what I'm gonna do, let me open up my terminal here. And I'm in Bash. Okay, I just have to get an NVM to work in ZSH2, and I'll be happy. So
I
let's
think
do
I found it for you.
this.
One of his gists. I just sent it to you in the chat.
Yeah, that's one of the gist exactly.
That's a
Yeah,
really
send it to.
awesome gist. And
Yeah,
it's
so let me
searchable
open.
too. Some of the
Yeah,
stuff at GitHub is amazing.
I'm telling you, man. So where are you? You are here. Did you put it in the chat here?
Yep. Well,
Uh,
private chat. Oh,
yeah,
it's on
put
the
it
right
in
there, the notification. The
the
notification on the right
notification.
there. That's comments.
Okay, I got it right there.
There you go.
Cool.
And
Yeah,
you're
this
right,
is
it's
awesome.
6.10.x.
Yeah, so 6.10.x, So 16. So from 12, you see it says like 13 is supports from 12.20. to 16.10. And in general, you don't use like, odd numbers for production code. Any odd version of Node, odd numbers, you don't use them. So having said all of that, what I'm going to do first is the Node modules that I have here, I'm going to get rid of them. Let me get rid of those. Do I want to get rid of the package lock? No, I did not. Where's my package JSON here? Funny. Oh, it's here. Do I want to get rid of the package lock JSON?
That's pretty useful.
Yeah. I mean, it will rebuild it. So why is it? It's going to take maybe a second here. Yeah, so this first session is going to be like the slowest one because we're going to just set up the environment, and maybe we're going to get to the first story hopefully within I have my timer here. We
We got
have,
this. My
yeah.
favorite part about setting up repositories is watching node modules die.
Yeah, man. I just don't know, man, how it got to this, but that's where we are. So now I have NVM. And if I do NVM ls, I'm at 16, but I have another version which is 16.10. So to be on the safe side, option K for me here, I'm going to do NVM use 16.10. Okay. And I still have package lock. So I'm going to be very careful when you deleting the package lock, and don't delete the package JSON. Okay, so let me remove that. And then now I'm using NPM. So yarn people, don't yell at me. I love NPM. So NPM I. And what does it say? Cannot find module. I've been seeing this, and funny thing enough, look at what's gonna happen. It's only happening in Bash. And I have done everything, but let me switch to ZSH, and I do the same thing. NPM I. We're not gonna have a problem. So I'm gonna say Bash bye because I don't wanna I don't wanna have to deal with. I don't like. I mean, I'm fascinated by this kind of stuff, but I'm the kind of person where I love cars, but I don't like opening like I don't want to see the engine. I have no interest in that. I just want a good dashboard and just get where I want to go. So tooling,
Get in the
the
car and
one
go
that,
vroom vroom. You don't
yeah,
care what's
that's
in the
it.
engine.
That's it. Really.
If possible, don't even make me worry about filling up the car with gas.
I'm
I'm
telling you, man. I'm telling you, man. I swear. I think it
Have you
all
seen
started.
Fig? Fig.io?
Fig.io? No.
Speaking of terminal problems, so they're a startup based off of reinventing the terminal. So they're considering it in the last like 50 years, the terminal really hasn't changed much. So they're really trying to reinvent the terminal and make it a platform for development. I think it's Fig.io. Yeah, so
Ooh.
they're starting off with implementing just killer autocomplete. That's like their number one thing that they want to get really right and make sure that it's complete. And it even comes with like custom integrations with Yarn and NPM and Kubernetes, and like you get all your autocompletes. And if you have your own autocomplete things or your own plugin, not even just autocomplete, you can just build on top of their framework instead of having to go into bash scripts yourself. So I've got my eye on this. And they
Oh,
just
man.
went released for Mac. So
That's pretty cool, man. I mean, like we need more tooling to solve our tooling problems, man.
yes, I
That's
personally do not want to look at bash scripts all day. Those are painful. They make my eyes
those are
bleed.
very. I know, man. I have some friends, they swear by Vim or VI or whatever. I'm like, why in the hell would you do that to
If you're
yourself?
good at that, go ahead, go you.
Yeah. Okay, so I think now we have I'm just gonna look at like um um the YouTube channel here in case we have some comments. So for now it's good. Let's go back to our, okay, there you go. So now we have it all installed, and
Wow,
we talked
zero
about,
vulnerabilities. Go you.
this is something else, man, I'm telling you. So
1,700
what
packages. No
think
vulnerabilities.
about it, man. Think about it. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I don't know if I want to create um a storybook right away, or I want to create a storybook inside the library, because what the normal workspace does, it organizes like your workspace in apps and
Mm-hmm.
libraries. And the way that I think about it is apps allow me to compose my application, but this is not why I define what my application would look like. So libraries, think about it as if you had like your private npm packages for your company,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't need to like download them via like a repository or everything like that. It's just like available as an import. You can import it directly and then use it.
Are we going to be developing the components as a separate library or
Yes,
with, yeah?
yes,
So we should
yes.
probably do that in the lib, I would think.
So we'll do the lib. I mean, you can do the storybook in the apps too, but I kind of have my reservation there. So let's create a lib. So NX has an NX console that it comes with,
That is
basically.
cool.
And then you can I like typing some commands once in a while, but man, if I can have a console that can help me. And then I'm going to create a normal angular, so that's the schematic, and what type of schematic I want to create. So I want to create a library. Okay, so now it's going to give me like the interface here. What's going to be the name of the library, and I'm going to call it what's it, email admin UI. What is
Sure.
cool though, what is cool though is as you are typing, it's showing you what the command would be like if you were to type it
Oh,
yourself. So let me move this to the right. I
that's
love it.
cool.
It's magical to me. And let me get rid of the left panel. I think on the Mac that's Command B. There you go. So here I'm gonna call it um, email admin UI. Okay, so it's gonna go in the libs folder. It's gonna create an email admin UI, and it's gonna create all of this. But you see that at the end, it show you what it would look like because it's using the dry run flag, so nothing has been created yet.
Mm-hmm.
And the directory, I like where it is, but if I wanted a special directory for my libs, so I like the default one. Add a module spec file. I leave this to the default. Is it a buildable library? We talk about the buildable library another time if we do a whole session on NX itself. But those I would leave the default. Um, Add a router module for child when set to true. Yeah, so this is a default. So um, it's just going to be a UI library. I don't need this. ESLint by default. Um, the parent module would be the default. I mean, right now that's my first library. I'm not doing anything. Prefix, publishable. Do I want routing in this library? No. Simple module name. Yeah, good. Skip formatting the file. Do not add dependency. So basically, I'm doing everything, and then stricter type checking. Okay, I'm not a very disciplined developer, so I'll go with the strict typing. That's fine. Do I want any tags for linting? No. And then for my unit test runner, I can do Karma or Jest. But I like it that from the get go, they already have the configuration for Jest. If you love Karma, I'm sorry for you, man. So let's run this. Okay, so and then we can just press anything in here. We can go back, and if you look at our structure now, we have libs email admin UI, which has like a source and a lib folder. And here it has an email admin module. Okay, that's very cool. Now, the very first thing that I want to do is install Storybook here right away. Okay, because there is um there's a couple advantage of like starting with storybooks even before you do Tailwind or anything else, and I'll you'll see why. So let me go back to my terminal, and we run nx run, and what's the name of our library? Email admin UI. Did we add Storybook already? I think we
No, not
need to
yet.
add. No, we did not add Storybook. Okay, so let's add it as one of the plugins here. So we're gonna do npm add in our dev dependency, not like that, buddy. Shift D, and then at narwhal Storybook. So let's add this first.
Oh,
Okay.
Narwhal has its own storybook thing.
Yeah, so if you want to know, they can you can see like the different packages. What was the, if you do nxls, I believe, or nx something. There's a command where it lists like, or nx list. It lists like you see,
Oh.
it will tell you here. Um, so the install plugin. So this is what you get from the get go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have like the Just Cypress like already there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was already there actually. Narwhal Storybooks. Oh, install plugin. So that's the one that I just installed.
Yeah.
And then also available, these are the ones that are done by Narwhal, you know. So you have
Mm-hmm.
Angular, Express, Nest, Next, and then the community plugins. So this is things that like they have added to the thing, but it was developed by the community.
I am impressed.
Yeah. So I think NX list will get you there. So option K. So next step now, let's let me see. I can do it with generate if we want, but this is such a small next run, I think. And then the name of like the project. And the name of the projects, if you go just to talk about like the NX workspace, you'll have an Angular JSON because you said that you wanted Angular workspace. And if you go in your Angular JSON, you'll have the different projects. So you have email admin, and by default, an app is going to have an email admin end to end. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're running your tests and everything, if you create an app, it will by default create an end to end project, like mirror it and then have the end to end. So that's for another day. And then the email admin UI will come as a project, but you see that the project type is a library, and everything that you had, the options, the narrow thing, and then you have like the NX JSON that has some very cool stuff in there. We're not gonna go into that too much today, but just to know like where I'm getting like the names of this thing, I'm gonna go NX email admin UI, and then column storybook. Okay.
All right.
Cannot find storybook for project email admin UI. So what do we do first? There's one thing in between that I need. Oh, we need to add the storybook configuration. Okay.
Okay.
That's why I should go by the by the helper, but I am so stubborn. So nxg at narwhal angular, okay, and then storybook, and this is the most important part because when you get the configuration, you get like baked in that configuration, like support for like Tailwind CSS out of the box. So feedmail, I'm not in feedmail, I'm in email admin and UI. Okay. So we need to set up the configuration for Storybook first. Configure a Cypress. Look at that. I love this question. Do you want me to configure a Cypress E2E app to run against a Storybook instance? Hell yeah. Do you want me to automatically generate story.ts file for component declare new
Wow.
project? So yes, please. And then, sir, do you even want me to get you some spec file generated inside? Oh man, why not? Is there a why not option?
That's awesome.
So,
So now it's going to automatically create stories and spec files every time you generate a component?
Exactly.
Wow.
I mean, there's a command that you will do. So if you already have some components, you can run it and it will go to every single component and attach a story to it. I mean, come on, man. It's making me look good because we still have about 15 to 20 minutes and we're almost there.
We're going to make it to our Hello World storybook. We're going to do it. We're going to make it. We can
All
do
right.
it. Oh, now we have
some
vulnerabilities. Oh,
All
no.
right. We'll just have a pass on it. We'll just pretend we did not see that for now. Okay.
It's okay.
So, next step, what I was doing earlier. So, before we do that, let's go to our libs, email admin UI, and now we have a dat storybook. In the dat storybook, we have the main GS, which is like
Storybook configuration itself.
Yeah, but look at it. Look at what it did. It's looking for a require root main, because don't forget, this workspace is gonna host multiple apps and multiple libs. So what did it do?
Should be up the top, I think.
At the top, it created a root space storybook that can be extended from anywhere. This is gonna be so important later on when we're gonna do like the custom like fonts and custom width and height in Tailwind CSS. We can make it happen from the root, and every other storybook that is extending it is going to take it from there. This is awesome. So you saw that I went and I created it from the lib, but since it recognizes that I'm in the workspace and then I'm in the lib, it went and created the same setting at the root level. Come on, buddy. I mean, unfortunately, Narwhal doesn't take money, but take my money, man. So anyways,
I like that a lot.
I'll just send them some like some pig blankets for the actual blankets, because Jeff Cross, who's one of the co-founder, loves his pigs. So I'm gonna find some good cozy blankets for those pigs and send it to him, man. I have to show appreciation, man, somehow, some way. So now let's go back to our libs, and then we have our storybook here with main and GS, and then let's run it now. Okay, let's run our storybook. So let's do what I was trying to do earlier, email admin, and then run it.
I love it when everything's green.
Yeah, man.
That's all I want to see in my editor.
Yeah, man. Green is the new black. That's what I'm telling you, man. So we're doing good. We're doing good on time.
Okay.
And for people, like, this is what I have. So by default, it's gonna be on host on port 4400. If you have multiple ones, it's smart enough to go to another available port. It's not gonna tell you this port is not available like some other framework do. But anyways, so let's do command click. And we are here, but it says could not find any stories in your storybook. That makes sense. We don't have any because when you create an app in Narwhal's workspace, by default, it's gonna create a default app component and stuff. In the lib, it doesn't do that. So, and since we don't have any component, we don't have any storybook. That makes sense. Okay, now let's show our very first story. At least we have that thing achieved, and let's start build our button story. Okay.
Yes. We're gonna
So
get the hello world. We're gonna get it done.
yes, and to make Zach happy, Zach the Rose, Zach Diamond happy, I'm gonna use the NX console, and I'm gonna generate a component. Okay, Angular component. And I'm gonna give it the name. I'm gonna call it Storybook.
Oh,
Come on, you're going too fast for me, man. So I'm gonna call it Hello Storybook. That's the last hello word you're gonna see in this app. Okay. So the project, I want to target the right project though. I want it to be created inside my lib. Okay. So I'm gonna go into email admin UI. And you see how it's adjusting. It's going to go into libs, email, admin UI, SRC, whatever. Now, the declaring module and all that kind of stuff, default. If you're going to use display block, if you're going to use a host, yeah, I want it to be exported because I want it to be usable somewhere else. It's going to create a hello storybook. Do I want it flat? Yeah, it's fine. I'm going to use inline styles, and I'm going to use an inline template. I don't want it to create a CSS file or an external HTML template. Okay, I'm just going to use one file. It's going to have everything added. Okay, so pass, I don't need it right now. The prefix, I'm going to leave it as is. The selector, I'm going to use an element selector. For the button though, I'm going to use attribute selector when we get to it. Skip selector, skip test type, and that's a component type. And view encapsulation, I'm not going to worry about that right now. So let's go ahead. Okay. Boom. Now let's go to our project. And in email admin UI, we do have a hello storybook that has a TS file. Let me give you some space so we can see it. That has some just ready testing created for you, and then your actual component, hello storybook works. Nice. Now, if we go back to our storybook, we're still not going to see anything because it is a component, but it's not a storybook. It's not the stories. We could create it from scratch. We could go ahead and do it, or we can just run this command that I was trying to use earlier, which is, let me just look at my notes again. There is this one. Yep. Fitmail UI. Okay. And this time, yeah, there you go. I found it. Let's go back here. And in our terminal again, we could do it with the generator, the dev console, but we will just do it from here this time. And let me open a new ZSH tab here, and I'm gonna do what was the last one we did? We did this command. Okay, I think it is NX again at narwhal angulars, and this time you just do stories, no configuration. So stories, and then go to email admin UI. Okay. Yep. Do you want to generate? Yeah, why not?
Why not? Why not?
There you go. Now look, it has created hello storybook component, and it has created in the email admin end to end, it has created some integration file for hello storybook component spec.ts. Are you kidding me?
Respect.
So let's go to here, and now let's look at our hello story. So like we saw in our HTML version that we did earlier, or that we were talking about at the beginning of this, it's importing, like, module metadata, story, and meta from like Storybook Angular this time. So we had a version with HTML, and it's importing the hello Storybook component. So it's exporting it as a default, and it's giving it this title. And then this is very cool. The decorator, I have an example when we're going to use SVG file a little later, but this is pretty cool. This is the one, this I saw like in Angular, not in React one or HTML, but they have this decorator object here, this decorator key. And now everything is like properly typed. It's going to export that as meta. So it's going to typecast it as meta. And then the type of story is hello Storybook component, basically. Okay. And it's creating a template. That template, is going to be a story that is typed as a hello book story component that is going to accept some hello storybook component as argument, and then have that. And then it's going to have the primary, which is going to be right there. So now that we have that, and we go back to our storybook instance and refresh it, now we have hello
Yeah.
storybook works.
Yes.
Which is pretty awesome. So now we do have Storybook running inside an NX workspace. The one thing that I wanted to make sure that we have, and we almost had time, was to make sure now too that we had Tailwind, and that we can call it a day once we have like Tailwind like in there. Because this is just like, I mean, yeah, we have storybooks running, but this is just your typical Angular, okay, component works. So what is so special about that? There's a lot of things that are special, but if you are a very demanding person, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add Tailwind CSS here. Okay. Let's see. So at the root. So any questions so far?
No, I'm looking
Okay.
forward to Tailwind. I used to be a
Okay.
Bootstrap guy myself until I got bitten by the Tailwind bug.
And you see like how we have prepared our component here, where we're not creating a CSS or an HTML file. We have our template right here, so this is
Mhm.
our HTML. And then if we needed styles, it will be here. But since we're going to be using Tailwind, everything is going to live inside this template. Okay. And I hate using or like um, showing things that I'm not going to use. So I don't need on init for now. I don't think I'm going to need it. I don't need you here. And yeah, thank you, GitHub Copilot, but I'm not going to need any of this right now. Okay. And you, I don't need you too. Get out of here. All right. I hate those wiggly things, man. They just traumatize me.
Same.
All right. So we have it and everything is still running. We good. Okay. If you don't believe me, I'm gonna add. All right, there you go. Okay, and it has like HMR built in, so like hot module reloading. So as you changing, it's gonna refresh your your project. Nice. Now let's add Tailwind. Let me go back to my. Let me go back here, and let's do uh, npm add Tailwind. I think like I don't even need to do this, but CSS at latest. And then we're going to put post CSS because that's how we reduce the size. Sorry. Um, I had water for a reason, but I never used it. Okay, post CSS at latest. And I don't even know if we need all of this. I think it's already bundled in. Auto prefixer at latest.
Now you need it. It's
Okay.
post CSS preset env that comes bundled with auto prefixer.
Not found.
Ah,
Tail.
Tailwind CSS. You put 3 S's on
Oh,
CSS.
I put thread 3 S's. Okay. So
You're just too excited, man.
I'm telling you, man, I just want to get to our. There you go. And I think maybe the
That
other
should be
ones
good.
worked. Yeah. That's why you need a second pair of eyes, man.
I'm happy to be them.
I used to be so scared about live coding and stuff. Now I just don't care, man. Because I think like making errors is part of the beauty of it, you know. So okay, so now that we have that, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna init Tailwind CSS inside of our. I want it in two places. I want it inside my app, and I want it inside my lib. Okay.
Hmm.
So let's go into my apps, and I have email admin, and I want to run npx tailwind css init, and don't forget the flag p because that's what's going to add like your post css in there. Okay, so if we go into our apps, we have now um, email admin. We do have post CSS and tailwind config. Okay,
Hmm.
let's do the same thing for what else can we do here? Okay, by default, if you go to your post CSS and your tailwind config, they are not connected. Okay, they are here. They just gave you the setup, but there's not a connection between the two. Okay,
Okay.
so the plugins, um, let's see, you have the purge, the dark mode, the theme, the extend, and everything. And in the plugins, actually, this is here. In the Tailwind CSS, you need to connect it to tell it, hey, I have like a Tailwind config somewhere. Okay. So in the Tailwind CSS, you need to add, and I think like, you see, Copilot helping me here.
I'm still amazed.
Yeah. But I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna just be a little like more diligent. I'm gonna use the join. Um, I'm gonna import the join, so it's like it
After
doesn't
that
just.
join dir name.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just be more. Let's do that and be a little more diligent. And it's require pass. Nice. And here now I want to use join. Okay. And I think it's just going to figure it out. Nice. Now we have connected our post CSS and our Tailwind config here. Okay.
Hmm.
Pretty important. And we get back to this one in a little bit. So this was in apps email admin. Now I want to do the same thing in my in my um, in my libs. So here I'm gonna just do cd. Well, I could have libs. Okay. And in libs, I'm gonna go into email libs. It's src maybe. Where am I right now? Hold on. pwd. Okay, that's where I'm at. That's why. So cd up again. Uh, Option K for me. pwd. Okay, so cd into libs, and then into libs email admin UI. Email admin UI. Do I need to go into? Yeah, that's all I need. because the other one was just in app email. I don't need to. Okay, I think this is where I need to be, and I'm gonna do the same thing. And npx oh tailwind css init dash p. Sounds good. Okay, so now if I go into my libs, I do have this in src, and you see it has put like, the post css and then the tailwind css config.
Hmm.
You will tell me that, okay, let's do the same thing, let's connect them. So what I'm gonna do, I'm lazy, I'm gonna go to my app, uh, tailwind config or post css config, command all, command copy, and I'm just gonna, there's another way to do all of this, but let's go step by step so we don't get lost in translation. Now this one, the just config of this one, let's look at it. It's in a lib. Let's see if it's gonna try to go get something. There's not really a direct connection yet. Oh no, this is just, what am I talking about? The post css and the tailwind, there's not really a connection between the different ones that are here. And the first question that people are going to ask, oh, I don't want to repeat this all the time, can I find a way to just have it like some things that are global? How do like we'll get there. Okay, just eat that popcorn and let us get there. So here once again, this was the post css that I copied, and in the post css here, I believe it's at the right spot. Should it
Yep,
be
just
inside the
paste that in
lib?
there.
Yeah, I'm gonna command all, command v here, command s. Now, there is a global file you can create. I think I saw it from an example that Yuri from the Narwhal team put together, which is like a global like preset file. We're gonna start there next session. Today, I just want to get us to Tailwind, and that's it. Okay, so we have this. Now that we have this, what are we going to create? We're going to create a Tailwind CSS file to get all the Tailwinds, like, layers, basically. So here inside of our lib src, we're going to go to here, and we're going to create. So Hello Storybooks has this stuff. In here, I'm going to create, just real quick, a file that I'm going to call tailwind.css. Okay. In the tailwind.css, I'm going to put add tailwind, the tailwind like layers, and we need the base. Then we need the tailwind components. And I think there's a third one, utilities. There we go. All right. So when we have that, where do we register all of this? We put it in our storybook here. Okay. In the preview.
Yeah, in the preview.
In the preview, we import. Is that right? We import it here.
Yeah, you import the CSS file.
We import, so it is inside of, so I'm in storybook, so I'm going out of storybook, going into src lib. That's correct. So going out, going to src lib, and is that lib? Yeah, lib. And I want to put Tailwind CSS. That's it. So since it's a CSS file, it was not. Okay, there you go. So now, technically, with this, we should be okay.
We should.
Okay. Now, I'm going to copy a component here, which is this dog right here. This is like forgot password. So
Mm-hmm.
there's this site called Tailwind Components. Let's copy. Let's look at the code. Let's copy the code that has already Tailwind classes in here. You know, let's copy that. Let's go back to our hello component here, which is yeah, this right here, the template. Let's get rid of this and just paste our component. There we go. Now let's go back to here. So we look at it and it has everything, but the Tailwind CSS files are not being applied. So let's see what we missed here. Okay.
Is there something that we need to tell Angular that the post CSS config exists?
Let me see. So I think it's just not recognizing.
When in doubt, refresh.
Let's see. Hold on a second. It's just not recognizing the Tailwind. I can first try this to make sure that it should not be a problem. Let me just like restart the storybook, and let me look at my note real quick if I forgot a step here. No, let's add in our app. Oh, you know what? In our app, we did not do the same thing. So we did it for, it should not, it because like we're looking the storybook of our of the lib, so it should not be a problem.
Oh, okay. So can you try restarting Storybook? Because
I
we
just
made.
did.
Oh, okay.
I just restarted storybook. There's one subtle thing. I remember when I was doing it at first. There's one subtle thing. So let me just go back step by step here.
Okay.
We were doing so good. So component template, and here
You were doing
in
so
the
well.
hello storybook component, okay, and the Tailwind, the preview. Do we put this in preview?
Yeah.
Yes, we put it in preview.
Hmm.
Okay, let me check one thing real quick. I have a plan, I have a backup. So, okay, so let me see. We are in lib, and inside of lib, inside of our storybook, we have our preview. Okay, I'm not sure if this is what is missing, because on my other project, the only thing that we have different is we are importing the root preview. So let me see if that's going to do anything different for us. Root
Is there even a root preview?
preview. Yeah, so that's the one we created in the main require the storybook, the one that we had in the at the root of the folder when we created like the first storybook in the lib.
Mm-hmm.
You remember? So that's fine. Let's go back again. Relative imports are fine, and then storybook, and then preview. It's just called preview, not root preview. So it's an import body for a JS file, so you don't need the .js. I think we're almost there. I think at the global level, I needed to add something that I forgot. Now let's come back. It's not going to do much yet. It's thinking though. Good. Now, let me go to the storybook here. Yeah, because it doesn't even have a preview here. You see what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
that's why it's thinking. So let me just set it up. Preview.js. Rename. So it's gonna
That's a
stop
different kind
thinking.
of view.
Yeah. Preview, and it's just gonna be impossible to say, man.
English is
So
difficult.
preview.js. What is it missing? Something is missing. Okay. Um, we definitely have Tailwind properly. Let me look at one more thing here. Um, I wonder if I just need to move like that Tailwind CSS up close to the, but it should not. It should not be that problem because we do have main is fine, manager is fine, preview is fine, Tailwind import. So the Tailwind import CSS, we have the base here. I just called it Tailwind CSS. Where is it again? In our lib. Okay. That's what I'm thinking, that I just need maybe to move it up here to these guys. And besides that, in my, now it's just importing this directly. And S. And let's just run it one more time. I don't see anything else we need to do because that was supposed to be very, very simple. So let me do Control C and rerun this. Oh man. Come on.
It should be good.
Yeah, I'm looking at my other projects and I'm not
Yeah, me
seeing
too.
any.
You set up the post CSS config. You set up the Tailwind CSS config.
Yeah, but you see the
Hmm.
files, the rendering is still not there. Let me see. So we are overboard by 15 minutes. Let's see if we can figure out in the next 5. If not, we will just have to pick it back up next Wednesday. What did I forget? What did you forget? So we go back to my notes. Okay. In Angular, we have the Tailwind base, Tailwind components. Do we need to add it to the Angular JSON, like the style.css as a global
Perhaps.
theme? I don't like that, but I'm gonna try this trick. So let me go to my I'm gonna do this, but I think that's a hack. So here in the in the apps email admin, there's a style that CSS that's gonna be somewhere here. Um, where is it? There's a style that CSS, and here I can add some global file and do at Tailwind base, Tailwind components, and Tailwind utilities. So this is a global. Let's see if it's gonna affect these guys. Oh yes, it does. But
Yay.
yeah, but this part is hacky. So
Hmm.
so this part is hacky. That's just to show that like Tailwind works. But technically, since we have the same definition like in the libs, we should be able to use it directly from the libs without having to do this hacky stuff.
Yeah, we'll
But
get
at
it.
least, yeah, we'll get it. At least we are here. So if we recap for today, we have installed, we have like created an Angular workspace using the NX Dev tools by the team at Norwal. We have installed like we have storybooks running for us in our libs, you know, and we
Cypress auto
have
generated too.
Cypress auto generated, just like hooked up and everything. And then finally, too, we have Tailwind CSS with a little bugginess here, but we'll figure it out like by next week. And then we keep on building and finally get like our button components and all the other cool stuff. So that's what we had for you today. Brian, if you want to have the last words, and then we'll say goodbye to everybody.
Nah, just thank you for including me. I really appreciated the time.
Of course, man. Thanks for being here. And same time, same place next week, Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern.
You got it.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.